Aloha, my name is Jessica, and I work here at Manoa Heritage Center. And I'm so glad to be spending this Thursday evening with you. For those of you who don't know us, Manoa Heritage Center is a 3.5 acre, we call it biocultural heritage site in Manoa Valley. And our mission is to promote an understanding of Hawaii's cultural and natural heritage. And we do this via programs. A lot of them are virtual these days. But programs for teachers, schools, practitioners, historians, community organizations, and neighbors. And if you'd like to know more about us, please feel free to go to our website, manoaheritagecenter.org. This program is called Kahaukani Conversations, and it's named after the wind in Manoa Valley. And it's an opportunity to share knowledge about Hawaii's cultural and natural heritage. We have funders who make this possible, and their names are the Atherton Family Foundation and Island Insurance, and we're very grateful to them. This evening, we have two very special humans with us, Uncle Bruce Keolani from Living Life Source Foundation and Matt Lynch, who wears many hats, one of which is the Director of Sustainability Initiatives for the 10 campuses at UH. Both are stewards of the land, specifically in the back of Manoa Valley, and we're so honored to have them here tonight to share their knowledge and work with us. As you're listening, if you think of any questions, please feel free to include them in the chat or in the Q&A where you've reserved some time at the end to talk story. And that is my brief intro. I hope that's enough, and I'm going to pass it on to my friends here. And thank you again for being here.
Thank you. Mahalo.
Give me a moment. I'm gonna do a bit of a screen share here and get us started. Velina Manoa, Velina Manoa I ka lehu aloha, aloha ua tua hine, mailua hine a iwa ikiki, kia ike kahaukani, paninona leo, eo kama aina, aina aloha e, manoa e. Welcome everybody. As Jessica said, my name is Matthew Kahaukani Lynch, and it's my honor to be here today with Uncle Bruce today to share with you all a little bit about some of the work that we're doing up at the Wahiawa Forest. Really want to thank you, Jessica, and the Manoa Heritage Center for hosting these conversations and for providing an opportunity for us to share. I want to thank all of you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and spend time with us and hear some of our stories. And while it's just the two of us today, there's many hands that make all of this possible. We're going to introduce you to some of them, but we also want to acknowledge our gratitude for the many hands that make what we do possible. Uncle, can you tell us a little bit about Waikiko Forest?
Well, Waikiko is the waters, and Akua is the god. And if you listen when you're there and you when walking through it, you hear the rustling of the branches and the singing of the birds and the threshing of the stream, Waikiko stream. And that came about as in history, in our history, ancestral history, when Kani and Kanoe were walking islands, and After passing Nuanu, and they came upon us a place where Kanaloa cried out. He said, "I'm thirsty." Not like that, but this is a part of how we would speak today. Um, and Kane said, "Well, let me take care," because they just found some ava, and they wanted to partake in the ava that was in Manoa forest. And so Kane took out his walking stick, which is um, what he struck the ground with, and that opened up the stream, the water stream. And more than that, it opened up a cavern, which meaning that where above it, where the aquifer is, what we know today as aquifers, he you know, they didn't know those things, but they know where water runs and where the source is, and so he know exactly where to hit the ground, and that is what opened the first stream, which is Waikiko, Waikiko, the waters of the gods, the sacred waters of the gods. And the water that we're talking about, after that, for instance, Kamehameha and other ali, they will send their helpers to run up to Manoa into the valley and collect this water. And the water was to be used as a sacred water. It was going to go to the highest ali'i, and only obviously it would only be used for the highest ali'i of that time. So Kamehameha would have been the first, and there are stories of that happening. And so sacred was when they were returning with gourds water. People, the commoners knew, and everyone would prostrate. Prostrate means they would lay on the floor, the ground, to let this sacred water pass them without, them having to question, because you don't want to ever question sacred acts. And so it also was used as not only for drinking, but also for la'au, meaning for healing. And also as farmers, sacred waters could be used for different places, yeah. Especially if you're looking at the Ahu'a system, for instance, Ahu'a Waikiki, which includes this, Manoa. So the whole valley of Manoa and the hillside was the sacred place for the ali of this Ahu'a. So he used that water also, for his family, his royal family, but also it was some of it we put aside and to put on altars. That's common. That's common. Some of us still practice that, and we all do, and we know that we can get the sources for many things. It's not just now, meaning it's not for the instant, but it's to preserve the family, the system, but also for all of Hawaiians, not just here, but around all the islands. Yeah, so they were sending that water to different places too, not just for Bali for this alpha, but other places, other alpha, and joined with other circuit waters. So I wanted to explain that real thoroughly because Waikiko is a watershed, and a watershed for us is a gift from the gods. Where, like I mentioned, Kani and Kanaloa was here, and is still here in the back. So I also want to let you folks know that when Kani hit the wall and the rocks fell, those rocks became sacred. So nowadays, if you walk in the stream, those rocks fill the stream of Waikiko. And these are sacred rocks also. And if you think a little more deeper, when Auntie Keho and I were walking up there, and she found, we were in the stream, and a crayfish started crawling up on a rock, heading toward her. It was 6 inches long, walking to her, like walking to her. Religiously, like, I'm gonna get you. But more important, like, it's an omen that came through to Auntie, to the knowledge of the beginning of time. The beginning of time. And that's in our what is that book? Yeah, I'm going to test Matt. Kumulipo is evident that at that time that we saw the life forms, the starting of the Kumulipo, but also the Amakua that's in the forest there. And it just, this is one place, one place, and every island have their own sacred waters, and that water, that sacred water, is within you. Yeah, we got into a point where the waters that we drink, specific how we generate it. Like Auntie Mona Simona, my teacher at Ho'oponopono, she taught us how to preserve water to become sacred, to be used for la'au. And these sacred waters, as you drink it, it fills your body with the holy divinity, the light that's produced by these gods. So I'm sorry I'm taking too long, but keep that in mind. We'll talk later.
Uncle Mahalo. It's such I could listen to you talk about the stories of Waikiko all day. We're gonna introduce ourselves and some of the core members of our team. This is Uncle Bruce, lineal descendant of Kamehameha, born and raised in Waikiki. Also our kahu and CEO for Living Life Source Foundation. Do you want to add anything to?
I think the picture says enough. Let's go to the next person.
I'll let you introduce Auntie Kehau.
Barely na everyone. About Auntie is sorry she couldn't make it tonight to join us to celebrate this time for restoring forests. This picture is taken in Waikiko. This is a breadfruit tree, ulu tree that we have growing. We have maybe a dozen or so growing up in Waikiko. Auntie, as you see, president of Ali Hawaii Hawaiian Civic Club, and she's also with Living Life Source. She is the mother of Living Life Source. She's the guiding light, and she has I mean, we worked up there. We cleansed and welcomed many people up there. So I want to just include her on this tonight and to honor her spirit. And that the work that we're doing in forestry and continues. We have another place where we're restoring a forest in Hilo, in Hakalau, and to reforest that, to engage all the wisdom of our ancestors in the process, in the community. But she said, hello, aloha, and we'll see you on the next slide.
Aloha, Auntie. This is Joey Valenti, who we're going to hear a short video from him in a moment. He's a graduate from the UH Manoa School of Architecture, and he's the principal architect of that structure that you see here that is still standing at the corner of University Avenue and Metcalf Avenue, that's made entirely out of Albizia wood, some of which was harvested right here in the valley at Lion Arboretum. The story of the Albizia Project is its own story on its own, which you can learn more at the albiziaproject.com, or excuse me, albiziaproject.com. In addition to this project, he's the co-founder of at least 2 other initiatives that are all basically working to develop regenerative models of business that don't just do less harm to our places, but that are explicitly designed to actively restore, repair, and regenerate our places and the peoples that live within our places. This is myself. I'm the guy on the left. Uncle's the handsome guy on the right. This is up at the site we're working at. Today I'm here representing the Albizia Project, and as Jessica mentioned before, some of my other roles include directing the sustainability initiatives at the University of Hawaii. Might talk a little bit more about that a little later. Where's this, Uncle?
Oh, can we go back to one slide?
Sure.
Yeah. So, Matthew, when we when we um, when we walked together at the beginning of this project, and as we were walking up there, we found that trees had already fell, and I think that's what we're kind of looking at now. And what is what was your reaction when we found that these? Because we were talking about the Albizia Project and how we're going to move forward with it. And they walk up there and the trees are down already. What was your reaction to that?
I didn't know you were going to ask me this. I was surprised. I was shocked. Yeah, it was a little painful. Yeah, we had been working on plans to secure funding to help bring the trees down so that we could start to demonstrate these models of enterprise where if we can find something valuable and useful to do with the tree, to do with something that we have too much of, so much so that it's a problem, we thought that we still think that we can demonstrate how if we're creative and we respect these trees, who are not from here, but who have value in themselves, they're out of place. And if we can find valuable uses for this tree and for this material, that we might be able to generate more resources to help us with our end goal, which is actually restoration and replanting the native forest. So to answer your question, it was a bit shocking when we discovered the trees were
down. And also then, I know it's going to take I don't know where we can catch up with it, but so after this, there was for me, I felt I felt the animals, I felt the gods, I felt the land in the same way. They were in fear. So we did a whole pono on the land to clear what fear there was, or not knowing where they're gonna find sanctuary in the forest where they survived and how they lived harmonious and be together. And so as everyone would think that that helped us because they did half of the work, but actually not, did it, right?
It's true. It was helpful that they were down. That's, yes, I'm very grateful for that. I'm thinking maybe I can show the video that tells a little bit about that. Bear with me as I manage this tech here. It's a short video. We're going to hear from Joey and some of our other partners that talk about some of the clearing work that was done recently up there to prepare for the next phase that we're embarking on.
Albizia is one of the most invasive species in Hawaii. It's so prolific that I think it takes up about 5% of the state's landmass. And it's currently one of the biggest challenges that the state's facing in terms of management for the ecosystems here. These trees have essentially taken over what once was a native ecosystem. And we're working with the Native Hawaiian stewards of that land to remove the Albizia and restore what once was there, what once was thriving as native species. Uncle will usually do an oli where we come together in a circle, and he'll say a chant that reflects on respecting what we're doing there, respecting the land before we enter, and saying thank you for allowing us to come and do the work that we're doing.
I'm the owner of Malama Tree Care. Most of our projects got shut down that we had planned for this year. And so during COVID, we were doing anything we could just to kind of keep things moving. And we were presented with this opportunity to do this, to help, Joey and the Albizia Project harvest these fallen trees.
Organizations such as Albizia Project, I believe, were selected because we are showing that there's other ways to create green jobs. The money, it wasn't given to us, it was given to the positions that were created to do the work that we're doing in the field. And without these positions, we wouldn't be able to do this work because we're not the experts. It's the arborists that are out there doing the removal. It's the team that's doing the work to help find ways to use the material. And all of these positions were provided through this funding. The work in there is hard. There's a lot of logistical things to work out. Even the guys that we brought on are a little bit overwhelmed because those trees are massive. I mean, we're talking about 5-foot diameter logs, and some of these trees were over 100 feet in length. So they're cutting these logs into lengths that we can use at the mill and turn into lumber. We're not uprooting the tree, we're leaving the stump behind, and the forest will do the work to let that decay and become part of the earth over time. We're taking the larger sections of the logs out to save that material and turn it into something.
People still here. Hey everybody. I think we got kicked off there. There we go.
People coming back in.
Back again. Okay. What I might do is I'll just post the link to the video so that we don't risk crashing again. I'm not sure what part it cut out. Uncle Ken, can I show them some of the things we're doing with the Albizia? Okay. Thank you for your patience, everybody. Going to show screen share again and show a little bit about some of the creative things we're doing with the Albizia materials. So this gives you a sense of how large some of the logs were. The logs that were suitable for milling were removed and trucked up to Bellows Millworks in Wahiawa. Is one of our partners in this work. This obviously is the original structure that turned us down this path, the Albizia Project housing structure, which is named Lika after Joey's mom, who passed away, unfortunately, in the first year of that journey together, 3 years of building that project. So Lika helped us to show that not only could we build with this wood, but we could build beautifully. And that really opened up just a new paradigm of what might be possible. On the left-hand side, you see here Joey making some sand sifters for sustainable coastlines. That's actually made with the scrap wood from the mill. So it's salvaged wood from that would have otherwise been destined for waste, for our waste streams. And then in the middle there, I think that might be Christine, who's actually oiling a chopping block that's been made from the cutout portion of the sand sifter. And so that's twice salvaged now. It's the waste product of something that's been made from a waste product. And in this way, we're trying to not just be efficient in our materials, but really respect the material, right? These were trees somewhere. These were living beings that we want to honor with how we utilize and respect what they've given to us. And these are baby koa trees from our partners over in Monowili at HARC, the Hawaii Ag Research Center, where they've been doing some really incredible research on koa trees. And they were really awesome. They're really stoked on our vision for bringing back the koa to Waikiko. These are going to be the first handful of koa trees that hopefully we get to put in the ground here soon, weather permitting, and to start to bring back the koa forest. They're doing some really interesting things at HARC with kukui as an understory, because they similarly have a very small, labor pool to draw from, very small crew, but a very large acreage of lands that they're responsible for. And so what they've found is that by outplanting kukui in the understory of these large albizias, a single person crew can get a lot of coverage, get an understory going, that when those larger albizias come down, there's an existing canopy already that helps to shade out the regrowth of the seed bank of albizia that's built up over the years. And so we learned from them a technique and a methodology that's really about working, observing, and interacting with and working with nature, and really living into our roles as stewards and working consciously to sort of accelerate the natural processes of succession and evolution. So in our case, part of what we'll be outplanting is kukui to help us with potential future expansion, so that we can go from a succession plan from a albizia dominant forest with a put in a kukui understory that will help us to bring back in future a koa dominated forest sort of landscape. And some of the other species that are selected for this first outplanting will be more ulu, so that we can continue to feed community, tea leaf for their cultural purposes, ohia'ai, also to help feed people, and lo'ulu for cultural purposes, but also to support with the thatching for the hale activities and similar pieces. So I want to make sure that there's some time for questions, and maybe we'll close just with a little bit of, maybe Uncle, you can share a little bit about your vision for what you see, what you hope for with our work here.
um, when you become and understand what stewardship means, uh, it's way beyond and deeper than what the word steward means. When we act on becoming a steward, we think our behavior is going to change, but and it is going to change, because if you look into the deeper part of what a steward would do, is understanding what is the foundation, what are we working on, and this project we're working on Albizia, for instance. But it goes back to the stewardship of the which is Waikiko and the watershed. So that's a foundation. And what is that made? What is that made up of? Again, we go back to the sacredness of the Waikiko. I believe that all those who come up to Waikiko with us would take a step forward into the future in the beginning, meaning that they would feel a sense of wanting to learn more about what each tree, what each plant, what is the water, and where's that source coming from. So we have to go back to the stewardship of our kino lau for the different trees we're going to plant there. And who is a kino lau? For instance, for the koa, who is a kino lau? The embodiment of that koa tree. And so it becomes not only a blessing to each person who learns that the god Ku is present in the forest. And we can understand the deepest part of that, to know that when you do your protocol, it's asking for Ku to let you in, to let you walk with him, actually. But so it becomes more than the plain stewardship of not only planting, but knowing how to plant it, when to plant it, and what is Ku going to say? What is the best time for him, for the koa to thrive, to put in the ground? We have to ask him, and where they want to be planted. Yeah, because how many years has been up there? and so the funny part is that for us, that when we're talking about the sacred waters of Waikiko, not every place has a stream like Waikiko. So how do we do that in another parcel of land in a forest? How do we do that? So it's an education that comes in. So that's why Matt is here. Yay! It's so wonderful that he's here with us, and all of the team, that they understand these things. Yes. So I don't have to be up there every day. Yeah, I think everybody, um, when we had uh, the time up there when we walked it, um, to see the living spirit thriving in the tree. Even those Albizia, I wonder who the embodiment of Albizia was. I'm sure one of the gods will take it. Yeah, because the Albizia can be turned into a canoe. And who is the embodiment of canoe making? Cool. So we honor Cool, we honor Albizia because it becomes a livelihood, but it becomes an education, but also it's a structure of a lifestyle, aloha lifestyle. Yeah. Now we don't have to catch a plane, catch a canoe, go to the another island, or go fishing, or take your family out canoeing. All of that is a fullness of what we're doing with what we want to do. The fullness to feel um, your 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 heritage, um, genealogy, so to speak, and also, but also um, understanding that some of our children they do not want to go to college, so this is a place. This is a place where they can come. Oh well, I'm talking too much again. So I go back to you, Matt.
Mahalo, Uncle.
Yeah, I want to say one more thing. You see that plant? You see the ulu? Not ulu, but you see the taro plant? You see the water inside there? Keko told us, when the rain falls and it doesn't touch the ground, it's still glorified and pure. And that's a sacred water also we want to drink. Mahalo. Sorry.
Mahalo, Uncle. Mahalo, Jessica. Guess we'll turn it back to you for there's a little bit of time for some questions.
Absolutely. Thank you both so much. I have a question here from Aaron. With the current vision, how many acres of Waikiko will be intentionally stewarded to produce gifts for the community for things such as food, thatching, etc.?
It's a good question. I mean, there was one of the shots in the video you could see, right? It's like it's a tiny kipuka. It's maybe 2 acres, and the landowners have at least 300 acres or so under their stewardship. So right now, we start with where we're at, and that's plenty.
And if you have any questions, please type them into the chat or the question and answer. We have a few more minutes with our guests. You have any questions or comments? I think here we go. Okay. With the trees, did they get approved by the state for strength?
I'm guessing you're talking about the Albizia trees?
I'm going to guess, yeah.
So one of the benefits of having the university in the Ahupua'a is there's a lot of people there. And so when Joey was a student there, he was able to work across our departments. And so the College of Engineering performed some structural tests, not just a number of structural tests. And there were some really interesting findings. So in quite a few of the structural tests, the dimensional Albizia lumber that we had milled actually outperformed some of the Doug fir that we had bought off the shelf from Home Depot. So those initial tests are very encouraging. There is a pathway forward to get the material certified and approved, by the state as a building material. That would require, we estimate at a cost of about $100,000 over 1 or 2 years, would provide the necessary funding support, basically for a graduate student to be able to carry that ball over that line and bring it to completion. I'd also add, though, that we're also very cognizant of not wanting to create any unintended consequences or perverse incentives. And so the idea here is not that we're trying to stimulate, a new Albizia sector. Not at all. What we're looking to do is Albizia management is currently underfunded, as many of the, conservation issues and invasive species issues are. And so we look at this as, hey, how can we start to create value for this in ways that Albizia management can become less of a deficit and perhaps even be able to fund itself. And if you think about what we're doing at Waikiko, this is not an economic play for us. This is about healing land, essentially, and healing land so that we can heal ourselves. And it doesn't take a lot of imagination to think about the economic implications of replanting Albizia dominant forests with Koa dominant forests. Just the economic value proposition there is significant. And so really what Joey and I are, outside of Waikiko work, we have a vision for catalyzing a whole sector of our economy that is regenerative, a whole regenerative forestry sector, where we are harnessing our creativity to think about not just how do we get rid of something, but what can we do with it? How can we use what we got to, solve some of the challenges that we have, use what get to do what we need to do. And also think about how then can we use that to heal places and to heal peoples, so that we can bring back our native trees and to strengthen our ecosystems. Yeah. It's a very long answer to a very simple technical question, Kalamai.
Very good.
This question reads, I have read that Albizia readily regrows when just cut down without additional treatment. Can you guys speak to that, the regrowth?
Have you seen that up at the site? Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen, I lived in Hana for a brief spell where African tulip is a very major problem. And African tulip, when you cut it, it's almost like kalamunga. It likes to be cut. It wants to grows more. Yeah. I haven't seen the same characteristics in Albizia. Like Uncle was saying, I mean, we do observe, there is regrowth. It doesn't appear to be as rampant or as vigorous as the situation with African tulip. I've seen tulips come down and then all of their roots sprout suckers, which is really problematic. The thing that appears to be more concerning is the seeds are so small and so prolific that, those trees have been there over 100 years. So the seed bank is pretty deep in terms of Albizia. I'm quite sure there's also the original native species seed bank in there too. So it's really about one thing that we learned from the work at Kalihikokua Valley is they found when they removed the albizias, they were able to steward and manage and pull out a lot of the regrowth by hand, which was enough for the koa to be able to reestablish and be able to take a hold. So I'm just sharing, like, you know, stories I've heard, what I'm learning from observing and listening to others, and we're just on this learning curve now. So the philosophy of working with nature and trying to, what Uncle was saying about stewardship, yeah, like trying to help accelerate these natural processes rather than fight something, I think is really, really key and core to it.
There are a lot of many questions about asking how can people help? How can they support this work? Is there a way, any way for Kanaka to volunteer for the restoration project?
Hey. Contact Matt.
Mahalo for that question. Mahalo, Uncle. Of course, we're in COVID times, so we can't, you know, accommodate. We have to be really careful and safe about how we manage people up there right now. Yeah, we'll share an email address to get in touch. Maybe so that we can get you to join our mailing list so we can keep in touch with you about upcoming volunteer opportunities. Is that okay, Uncle?
Well, you know, once you sign up, you're in for life. So make sure it's not it's ink that it'll stay on. Matt and us will call you for a long time. We're gonna love you folks.
Carrie is asking, where is Waikiko? Where in Manoa Valley is it?
Do you want to take this?
You can answer.
Okay. So Waikiko sits at the top of the watershed. It's the top of the Aloi watershed. And if you are headed back towards Manoa Falls, that on that road headed back into there, to your right, it's sort of the next ridge over. It's that whole section. So between Manoa Valley Falls and Pu'upia, that area of the back of the valley is where Waikiko is nested within. There's 5 streams, yeah, I think up there. They all flow into Manoa Stream. Manoa Stream. Most Manoa Valley residents know this place, but not by that name. and it's not a public trail. It's a much beloved hiking path by locals. So I'd be surprised if you're an avid hiker in Manoa, you probably know this trail.
Thank you. Do you foresee a training program to support waves of young people to be part of respectful Albizia renewal and transformation into canoes, housing, surfboards?
Call Matt.
Uncle likes the surfboard. So I think that for Albizia specifically, I think we are invited to think much bigger than that. The Albizia is just one of many problematic species. Our communities on Molokai, Lanai, and Maui right now are really struggling with the axis deer, right? And axis Molokai venison is delicious, you know. Conservation International was recently doing a campaign with ta'ape, the invasive snapper. Joey's working with Dylan Ardofa on building another structure utilizing slash pine and eucalyptus, both of which are problematic species that are posing fire risks in places like Hawaii. And so I think what the question invites us to think more expansively towards how might our education transform in order to meet these times, and how might we be able to radically reimagine our futures and radically reimagine the challenges that we face by thinking in these ways. I think coming from love and respect, and is not, these trees didn't, get on a boat by themselves and come to Hawaii. No, they were brought here, right? And so they're plants out of place, but they're sacred plants in their homelands and in their native ranges. And they have mo'olelo, they have uses, they have, spirits, they have kinolau in their native homelands. And I love this idea of what kinolau might adopt them here. And if we start to think about things that way, and I think we can radically reimagine our education to be able to create generations of stewards, of folks who naturally think this way. Yeah, I think we're only limited by our hearts and our minds.
We are looking forward to a time when this can come to the Big Island, where we are looking to use Albizia to build small homes for those who are homeless. Build a bunch of Albizia on land, and the people there, the name that we're using there is Eola Kapu Vai Aloha, the living life in a person's heart. So we're looking forward to this, that we can build an industry with this. Possibly, maybe not all Albizia, but mixture of corn to be used, and some other wood that I think it's going to come familiar in this industry. Yeah, I look forward to this. And just I think prophesized that why this happened. It is genuinely in our heart to make this happen for all of not only those who are homeless, but also those that are struggling. You can't even put a penny down for a house anymore. Yeah, so I think we can call Matt.
Hello, Uncle.
Do you guys partner with Kumuola Foundation? Those guys? Yeah.
They're our neighbors. So Kumuola has been up there for about 10 years, and Uncle Bruce and Auntie Kehau have also been there. So we are all in service to Aina.
Awesome. Okay, we have some nitty gritty. Well, I've heard it's not financially feasible to harvest Albizia because of the cost to haul the wood out. So what would you say to that?
Yeah, it's that is one of the biggest questions that we're solving for. So when Joey and I built Lika, the Albizia Project housing prototype, people were just saying, you guys are crazy, and what we learned is that the supply chain exists, it's just not robust. And with a few strategic investments, it could actually open up things so that we could have an economically viable regenerative forestry sector. We are still very much in a due diligence and analysis phase, and the work at Waikiko is directly informing that. So we now have a much clearer idea of the actual cost that it takes to harvest and replant Albizia trees with native species. And basically, you know, version 1 is always the most expensive in a prototype, right? And you kind of learn, you go forward. And the smarter we get, the more economically viable it will get. So our hope is that we're really focused on the outplanting so that we can have that full circle. So right now our immediate focus is to ensure that those trees can get into the ground. And then we're hopeful that at some point in the future, in the near future, there'll be an opportunity to do the next size pilot. So maybe we go from 2 acres to 5 acres and we'll learn more there. And in that way, I know that it is a solvable problem. It's just going to take more time and more brain power, frankly.
More Matts, maybe.
Or Uncle Bruce's.
And more Uncle Bruce's. There, I guess, and also along those lines, have you talked to the state about large-scale Albizia removal? And do you see restoration efforts like this as a possibility on a large scale?
Yeah, I wish Joey was here to actually answer that. So Joey, for the past 2 years, has been the coordinator of the Hawaii wood utilization team. And that was an initiative that DLNR and DOFA were able to basically partner with Joey and the Albizia Project to bring in federal monies from the U.S. Forestry Service. And it's the first time that that particular award has been given to an initiative in Hawaii. And so the Hawaii wood utilization team is in the early process, the early phases of what you described, that potential sort of future vision of large scale removal and replanting. So I guess the short answer to that question is yes, and it's actively being worked on, but it's step by step, right? It's a journey of 1,000 miles and we're maybe on step 2 or 3.
Have you guys worked with the Hawaii Forest Industry Association? I bet Joey has.
Yes,
yeah.
Through HWUT is kind of the acronym for it, but it's probably not the best acronym. The Hawaii Wood Utilization Team.
Just a couple more. Thank you guys so much. Let's see. Are there other structures on the island that have been built through your program? So I'm assuming that would be other structures built with Albizia that you know of.
Through our program?
Yeah, through your program.
So, you know, may I do a screen share to answer this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'm gonna give a plug here. So my my family on my mom's side is from Wahiawa. And my mom and all my uncle folks are Lelehua grads. So I got to give a shout out to Wahiawa right now because one of Joey's latest initiatives is the Wahiawa Design Lab.
Oh yeah.
And so go follow them on Instagram. They're just getting started and they have all kinds of really gorgeous gorgeously handcrafted, intelligently designed, radically ethical wood products that they're making. This one in particular, I wish I could make this a little larger. This is actually a rendering. It does not exist yet. However, it would have been built if it were not for COVID. And this is one of the outcomes of, or one of the projects of the Hawaii Wood Utilization Team. So the first prototype the Albizia prototype is the one that we see at University Ave and Metcalf. And this one, I'm not sure where they landed on as far as the demonstration site. I understand that they were trying to look for something in sort of the Capitol District near the state Capitol building. Don't quote me on that, because the project paused as the world went into COVID. But this, as you can see here, is made from eucalyptus that's harvested from the Koke'e timber management area, and also from stands of slash pine that were also in that area. So yeah, watch this space, watch that space. There's lots of exciting things coming from there.
Yeah, keep calling Matt.
And speaking of that, Matt, so I've got a couple of requests for that special email address.
I'm gonna need a little bit of time to get
that.
Okay. But maybe when we post the link to the recording, we'll also email that out to our participants.
Exactly. We'll handle it that way.
I'm gonna have Joey come next time.
Nobody wants to come with Uncle anymore.
So we have one question from Jane. She says that there is a line of 30 more albizia along a line of where native trees are to be planted. Will albizia destroy the new trees?
It's always a possibility. You know, we don't go up there when it's windy because of the hazard that they pose. And trees come down in forests, you know, all the time. So it's kind of a part of the life cycle of forests.
So that also depends on, so we're in a watershed, and it doubles because it's in Manoa, so rain up there is constant. And the rainfall that has been measured is 50-something inches a year, which is closest to Kauai. But what Matt is talking about is where would you do a project like that? If it's in a rainy area, dry area, and most important is what was there before. If you know that, that will solve a lot of your problems, because you don't know what was cultivated there. Yeah. Because some what you cultivated before would take a lot of the nutrients, and so you have to do a lot of research on that.
I think this might be Kumutai Crouch asking this question, but he knows that canoes were built from albizia recently. Have any of you ever had any contact with canoe clubs who are interested in albizia canoes?
Yeah, there are several of them, and they're looking for more. And we're gonna have one of these where we're gonna build a canoe we're working at a fish pond, restoring a fish pond in Pearl Harbor, and right now that's the only open space that we can do that. So we're looking forward to start that, so we can go paddling in Pearl Harbor with all the battleships. Well, the last canoe that came in was Hokulea. They came into Pearl Harbor to do when they're doing the voyage, and it was remarkable. And I think if we had a visa canoe that could sit aside alongside of the hokulea. That's that's talking about future for our children.
I think that might be the perfect way to end this. Or to conclude this conversation, rather. There was one last question. Didn't want to leave her hanging, but when the Albizia falls, what happens to the plants that are underneath? Do they regrow eventually?
Yeah, that reminds me of the Buddhist cone. When the tree falls in the wood and nobody's there to hear it, does it? I don't know that I have a good answer to that. I think the best answer I have to that is we're going to learn if one of those does come down on the area we replant. That part of our strategy with this initial outplanting is to plant fairly densely. That's nature's strategy too, right? That's why trees make so many seeds, because you're sort of playing the numbers game. Uncle, I'd really love to hear your thoughts on that.
Was that question to me?
Yeah.
Oh. So ancestrally, for instance, if when land was cultivated, you're never gonna lose those roots, because of how strong when in those beginning times when land was so sacred, and they planted in sacred times. They always early when they gonna plant, before they plant, during the plant, every day they plant, and so you know that your root is like your heritage. Your root goes this way. The root will go as far as you want it to go. And although this part is hooky or taken out, the root is still there. So sometimes, always, when those things happen, even devastation, like when there's fire, or when nature, when nature is overpowering the land. So nature, if nature gonna do that, they're gonna bring it back. That's a whole concept of how Hawaiians were, and not just Hawaiians, indigenous people. That's how they saw progress and also sustainability of their villages, to ensure that once you plant one, you're never going to lose it, because you have cool there. You're never going to lose it. There's so much trust in nature. There's so much trust in the gods. So much trust to Keakua. And that's how breadfruit. You know that story about breadfruit, yeah, and what Ku did because there was a devastation.
I don't know that story.
You don't know that story, Matt?
No, I don't know the story.
Nice. Okay, another time. Continuation.
Oh, thank you so much, Uncle Bruce and Matt, for spending this time with us and sharing this amazing project. We look forward to watching and participating and helping you as much as we can help. And thank you again and again from the bottom of our hearts. Really appreciate it.
We thank all of you, and for the family. Yeah. for Manoa heritage, for their years of their relationship to the community, the Hawaiian community, what they did for ages and ages and ages. Um, they guaranteed to Hawaiian people that our Hawaiian heritage will never be lost. Mahalo to all of you. And thank you, Matt. Mahalo, family. Mahalo, Ana.